welcome to this roundtable, the latest in the series of weekly sessions that we do. I think we have some, shall we say, virgins onto this session, first timers. So basically, just to give you a bit of background, my name's Tony Lockwood. 25 plus years in change and transformation, and during lockdown, I sort of stepped back when all my projects that I was working on came to an end, abruptly, shall we say. I stepped back and looked back on my career and realised that probably 95, 96% of everything that I'd been involved in had all come from the network, and people that I'd worked with, people that I knew, etc., etc., referred me into clients. So I set about establishing the Transformation Leaders Hub as a way to bring people from that sort of community of project program change and transformation people together and help them to create new relationships, build their network, and ultimately open up opportunities for each other. And back end of last year, we started these sessions on a weekly basis, which are really aimed at sharing some best practice, some world-class basics, and then opening it up for discussion. So the format is 15, 20 minutes of me sharing some stuff and then opening it up for discussion and sharing your experiences on the subject matter that we talked about. And actually what we find in previous ones, those conversations take on a life of their own. The feedback tends to be that they're interesting conversations. We do record so that people that need to drop out can catch up, and those people that have registered but are unable to join can catch up as well. The recordings go into our Facebook group. So if you want to catch up on any of the previous, I think this is the 14th episode, so any of the previous 13, then just let us know and we can share the link to our Facebook group. So today's session is looking at how you can get the most from LinkedIn posts, and the 4 key elements, or the 4 key components of sharing a post that really will connect with people. So let me just share the screen and we'll get into the detail of those 4 elements. Whilst I'm sharing, any questions before I go into the presentation, please? No? Can everyone see that screen now? The 4 elements of a perfect LinkedIn post? Brilliant. Thanks, Theo. Okay, so we touch on this all the time, and well, I've been doing it for the last 3 or 4 weeks, really, of why this matters. And it really combines into this sort of phrase, people buy from people they know, like, and trust. And I think this session in particular will get people, it will help people to get to know you and ultimately to get to like you. And that's what, that's the focus of this session, really. And that, when I say people buy from people they know, like, and trust, that's applicable in personal life, in your career with your colleagues, and in business life if you are dealing with and looking for new clients. So it's much more generic than just a sort of buy sell type of focus, if that makes sense. So let's start to look at the 4 key elements. So number 1 is really about keeping it short, simple, and spicy. So short, what we find is that post of 150 words works best. Stats work really well, and quotes work really well. And if you can combine those things, then tend to get people to share and engage and comment upon them. So simple. If you look at it on a principle of you're sharing stuff and ultimately sharing it to try to get engagement, to try to get people to interact with you, what's the best way of doing that? Well, it is about informing, absolutely, but it's also doing it in an entertaining way or a different way. and trying to be position yourself in a slightly different way. So it's very easy just to type in a post. We'll do 50 words, absolutely. But if you can post a video, or if you can post some type of infographic, or polls are really good these days, it gets people's attention, it gets people engaged, and people start to share it. And ultimately, the more engagement you get on posts and the more people that are sharing your post, the wider your network will develop, and people will start to know of you, and then they can start to engage with you, and that's when they start to move towards that like. And something that a lot of people forget about is, where possible, where it's relevant, always include a call to action, and try to phrase or position your post where you can naturally include a call to action. So for example, this morning I posted a stat on my LinkedIn, which was a quote from the chief executive of Cisco, saying that over the next 10 years, 40% of businesses will fail if they don't adapt to new technologies. And my sort of comment around that was, that's great for people like you and me working in project program change and transformation, because that's lots of opportunities over the next 10 years. We pulled together a Transformation Leaders Hub to help people to build a community in that space where we can start to share. So if you'd like to have some information, drop us a comment, and we can I'll send you an invitation. So it's that you used a quote, framed it in terms of the avatar that I'm looking to attract, and then asked them to make a comment to get access to TLH community.
Yeah.
Can we just let me put everyone on? Oh, it's gone. Okay. And then the final aspects of this first phase is spicy. So have a point of view and stir the pot a little. So it's all too easy just to share stuff and not really add anything to it. But what I find, and I think what most people find, is if you can go out there with a point of view, then, and sometimes that point of view can be quite evocative. The more evocative that you can be, really, the better, because it will start to, people will react and respond to it, as opposed to just reading through it and scrolling through the LinkedIn app. So the ways to do that: ask a question, really sort of use some topical issues or topical newsworthy items, and share your thoughts on it, and get personal. So I tend to start a lot of my post off linking directly to asking people if they work in change and transformation, or are you involved in change and transformation. So the people that are not can just scroll through and get onto the next post, but those that are and do work in change and transformation are likely just to stop and read the next line, and that will start to get that initial engagement. And there's a tool within LinkedIn that many people don't use, is these hashtags, and you can search on hashtags, but with those hashtags, I really include some of the relevant ones in your post, because I would typically put in hashtags in mine, which are project managers, program managers, transformation leaders, change managers. This does two or three things. One, it basically attracts those people to it if people are searching on that hashtag. But in your overall your profile summary, just beneath your headlines, it will start to LinkedIn starts to say that this person posts on these subject matters. So it helps on your profile page when people click through and understand a little bit more about you. And thirdly, it will start to pull together all the relevant posts that have happened during the week or so in those particular areas. So you start to get associated with other people that are posting in those areas. So that's the first element. So to keep it short, simple, and spicy. The second one is share good stuff. It sounds pretty obvious, but if all you're doing is just liking stuff or just taking, not that interesting type of information, people will just scroll through, and very quickly you'll be ignored. So find shareable content posted by your followers or thought leaders within your client and prospect organization, or specific role holders within your target niche. So we've spoken about this sort of avatar, have a clear understanding of the people that you want to talk to, and always talk to that person. But if you can find other people that are like your avatar and start sharing their information, the people that you want to want to approach, are saying want to get to know and get to be engaged with, will probably be following those other people. So you start to create this little network of people that you are sharing information with, and you become known within that sort of that niche as someone who is aware of what's going on, is someone who's connected to the relevant people, and someone they can turn to for a point of view. And use, as we touched on this in the previous one, but use those notifications, those hashtags, and share relevant information. Set up a Google alert. If you go into Google and do a search, you can very easily save that search. So I've got a number of them around sort of just business transformation or change management. And what that does, every day I get an email from Google to say, these are articles, these are blogs, these are reports that have been shared within those areas. And you can be quite specific. You can sort of say, I want business transformation in social housing. And what that does, it gives you a lot of information, very relevant, very topical, very up-to-date information that you can share. So you don't necessarily need to be creating lots of stuff every day or every week. You can go out and find relevant information and share it. But when you share it, as I said in the previous slide, have a point of view. Put your point across in your comments across about the document or about the report or about the post that you're sharing. So the third element is always include vivid visuals. The challenge with any social media is naturally you scroll down and you're constantly scrolling down until something grabs your attention, and it's usually a visual that grabs your attention, and that's why videos work quite well, because we grab it. It's much more likely that we'll get attention will be grabbed if something is moving on screen rather than just a static image. But if you go and put a static image in, make sure it's an eye-catching image. Make sure that it's got some color. Make sure that it's got some content in there that will grab people's attention. But make sure equally that it complements the topic under discussion. There's an argument to say, post a picture of your dog and you'll get loads and loads of comments and you'll get loads and loads of likes, which might well be true, but are they the type of people that you want to engage with? So don't chase likes or don't chase comments from people that you're not really interested in engaging with. Be specific, be focused upon your avatar, but once you have got that information, that the content that you want to share, position it and post it with some very relevant visual images around it. And be original. You can use Canva, you can get loads of stock images, absolutely, but jazz them up to make them look distinctive. So rather than just post an image with maybe a quote, your point of view on it. And Canva is a really good tool to allow you to do that. and it's free. There's a paid for version, but the free version is more than sufficient to do what we need to do on what we're talking about today. And you know, if you haven't come across Canva afterwards, if we've got time, I'm quite happy to show you what it is and how you can use it. And one of the things that LinkedIn have really started to focus in on is around what they call dwell time. So and that's the amount of time that people are engaged in your post. But that size and length matters to make sure that they're positioned in the right way, but also that they get that dwell time. So from an image perspective, that's the ideal size, 1200 by 627 pixels. You know, Canva will be, you can create images to that exact dimensions to those exact dimensions in Canva. Videos, 30 seconds to 2 minutes is best. So 30 seconds is probably the minimum just to get people engaged and start to talk through. You equally remember that you've got to grab their attention in the first three seconds or so. But beyond 2 minutes, people get bored and they'll click away. And within, whether you're posting an infographic, whether you're posting a video, whether you're posting a story, make it a story. Tell your story. Talk to them as you would talk to people face to face, but be succinct. And adopt the AIDA principle. For those of you that have been on these before, I've spoken about AIDA a number of times, but AIDA is you need to grab their attention. Once you've grabbed their attention, usually with a headline or an image, you've got to build their interest. And that's talking directly to them with something that will make them think, well, yeah, this is relevant to me. Then you've got to build the desire to take action. And that action is really your what you want them to do next. So there's a you know, we've got lots of information about AIDA and how to use it within lots of things that we do within the Transformation Leaders Hub. But you know, I'm more than happy to share that with you if you want more information on AIDA in due course. The final part of these four elements is the focus, and we've spoken about it many times over the last few weeks. I was reading a book a few weeks ago that was talking about the change from me marketing to you marketing, and this is very, very important on social media. The more people talk about yourself, the more you talk about yourself, the more people will just scroll away. They're not interested in you. They're interested in what you can do for them and what you can do to help them overcome their issues, their challenges, you know, meet their opportunities within their sector. So the more you can focus upon their needs and talk their language and talk about the challenges that the sector's facing, etc., you'll position yourself as someone that they need to be aware of, that they need to start to engage with. The more you talk about you, they'll just scroll away. And once you get that reputation, that all you're doing is just desperately trying to sell them something or desperately trying to promote yourself, the likelihood is that they'll actually stop and they'll unfollow you, or they'll you know, remove the connection from you. And this sort of 4-1-1 rule works very well, actually. So it's basically saying for every 4 pieces of engaging content that is focused upon your ideal avatar, so that's content that's interesting to them and adds value to your avatar, then once you've done 4, you can do one piece of content about you from another source. So some type of third-party endorsement, perhaps, or a case study is great in this situation, and one piece of content that promotes you and what you offer. And I find in this, and there's been some studies recently, that rather than when I say promoting you and what you offer, rather than be overtly salesy in terms of selling a product or a service. The better way of doing it is to basically share something that helps people to understand more about you as an individual, as a person, not as someone who's trying to sell them a service or a solution. So this could be what you've done over the weekend. It could be, you know, if you're doing a challenge, or if you've had a really great experience in a shop or in a restaurant, just sharing some information about you as an individual, people will start to get familiar. They'll be much more familiar with you as an individual. I know when people follow this religiously, what they find is that very quickly, when they meet people for the first time face to face, there's almost a chemistry that exists, because the person you're meeting for the first time almost has a little bit of an understanding of who you are, because you've been sharing stuff about you as an individual and you as a person, and stuff from your personal life, not just purely from your business side. So stuff that you're interested in, stuff that you stuff that you're interested in, stuff that you are happy to share, third-party stuff that you're happy to share, but it's about you as an individual. So those are the four aspects. When you are about to press that button to say post to LinkedIn, always ask the question, would I read this and would I engage with it? And if the answer is no, change it. And the final point I'll make is a question that I'm asked a lot when we talk about LinkedIn, is how frequent should you post? Should you be posting every day? Should you be posting multiple times a day? Should you be posting once a week? And the answer to that, and interestingly enough, sorry, I put a poll up on Monday to ask people how frequently they are posting if they work in change and transformation, and so more than 50%, as of this morning, more than 50% of people are saying that they post rarely. So two things from that. One, if you do get into some sort of regular flow of posting good quality material, you'll immediately start to stand out from the majority of people out there that are working in project program and change management. But secondly, to answer the question directly, how frequent and how often should you? My view is that it's not the regularity, or it's not the frequency, should I say. It's doing it in a rhythmic way, doing it in a structured way. So if you are posting once a day or 3 times a week, continue to do that. Don't go down the route of, I'm going to put loads of posts out on Monday and then do nothing for the rest of the week. Spread them out over the week. Don't go down the route of saying, I'm going to, you know, the first week of the month, I'm going to do everything, and then I'm not going to touch LinkedIn for the rest of the month. Get into some type of rhythm on your posting. And that posting can be you sharing information, but also commenting upon information and commenting on other people's posts. And again, remember these four elements when you're commenting. So have a point of view, share some relevant information to the original post if you've got it, and engage with people. So this is something that we cover off a lot more within the 1% Club Mastermind program. Sorry, just let me clear. So it's in this social machine piece that we do within Momentum. More than happy to share a lot more information about that if you're interested. But let me stop sharing now, and we can open up conversation. So, any thoughts or comments at this stage on, and what's been your experience, and what type of posts have you had most engagement with recently?
Hi, Tony. I was going to say thanks for that. That's really interesting. I haven't posted anything at all on LinkedIn. I'm so focused on work, and most of my stuff, especially where I am now, is sensitive. That's really, I haven't thought about posting anything on LinkedIn. So it's probably worthwhile considering whether I should, need to, or want to try and stay as a so-called thought leader. But as yet, I haven't actually posted anything on LinkedIn.
Right.
I'll have to think about doing it.
I think it fundamentally it depends upon what you're trying to do, Theodore. I think it's if you want to utilize the media and the medium, should I say, to position yourself as that thought leader, to position yourself as someone that's people should approach when in relation to potential opportunities, etc., then the more you sort of can focus in on that ideal avatar, the better. But equally, if that's not what you want to do, then LinkedIn's it's a good research tool. It's a good tool for using for other reasons. I think a lot of people initially got involved in LinkedIn and put their profile up because it was almost positioned as a online CV distribution tool. I think there's a lot more you can get out of it now with a not a massive amount of time or effort. I would say no more than 20 minutes or so a day on LinkedIn. You stand out significantly from the crowd just by having 20 minutes a day on it.
And one last question, sorry guys. So what's the minimum frequency you think? Once a month to post some credible insights?
I think it is a case, as I said earlier, of having a rhythm. So if it's once a month, do it once a month. I think that's probably a little, probably too infrequent. A couple, 2 or 3 posts a month, I think, is probably minimum, just to keep your profile up. That when people click on, they can see that you're active. They can see that you're involved in some discussions.
People tend not to look at the name, though. If you do it 2 or 3 times a month, they might not have that continuity, say, oh, that was Theodore who posted that. Because people, I know from my own experience, I don't always check the name of the person who's done it. If it's a direct contact, I would definitely keep an eye, but it's the ones who are regular and who are more than that, probably, there's several a week, you tend to see the name, and especially if it's a more interesting name. There's a guy from Eastern Europe who's posting quite a lot at the moment on the environment, and his name has sprung to mind, one, because it's regular, and it's an interesting name. So if it's 2 or 3 a month, it would have to be a really good content.
It comes back to that what we were saying earlier. Start with the end in mind. If the end in mind is to attract people to engage with you, to open up opportunities for you in due course, then the more you can be on the sharing information, sharing a valid point of view, when people click through, they will start to, because you're talking their language, because you're identifying and sharing information that's relevant to them, they'll naturally want to engage with you. So it's almost the first thing you have to do is get their attention. And when your first action that you want them to take is to click through on your profile. When they're on your profile, then they'll read down your profile, what you've done, but very high up on that sort of scrolling down your profile is your activity. And if you're then posting some very, very relevant information, then I've had people respond to me after looking through my profile on a post that I posted 3 or 4 months ago, because they've engaged and they've started to look down and this, oh yeah, that's interesting. Can we talk about that particular point? So it is having that frequency and having that regularity, but ultimately it's about good quality, posting good quality stuff, not just posting for posting's sake. So if you've got nothing to post, don't worry about it. But if you get into a frequency of 2 or 3 times a week or 2 or 3 times a month, whatever it is, stick to that rhythm.
Thank you.
I think there's three kind of different flavors of stuff, and the things that appear in your feed, which is basically who you're connected with and kind of who you follow and all that sort of stuff. And the easiest way, so flavor one for me, is just to scroll through my feed, and if there's things that are interesting, like them, celebrate them, support them, be curious about them, and leave a comment if there's something kind of I'm gonna say meaningful. If there's something that you can just feel that you want to comment on, say that's really good. I've seen this before. Oh yeah, it's great, isn't it? I also like add Carl Prince, or I think Togas a load of rubbish, or whatever, but something that's related to the comment. And that's a very easy way to do it. And also sharing. So if you see something, a post, just kind of share it and say, hey, I don't know, this great article about whatever it might be, or something. That's an easy way to engage. So that's the first flavor. The second one is, as Tony said, the insightful stuff, which is, you need some thought, and you need to kind of think about what you're going to say and how you're going to say it, etc. Because there is a limit to the number of words you can put in a post. So that's the thinking one. But the third one is, personally, I think, a little bit, I would say, more playful or provocative, but a bit more light-hearted. So you don't need to kind of sit in a darkened room for 6 hours thinking about something really insightful to say, but just something that people are going to be interested in. And you look through your feed and you can see all sorts of stuff of that nature as well, and anything that people might find just interesting. And it doesn't have to be related necessarily to what you do, but it's the sort of thing that you want. Okay, if somebody saw this, would they be interested, and would they think, yeah, good? Because then they just associate good, interesting stuff with you, regardless of whether it's related to what you do as a job or your kind of particular skill set. So there's 3 different flavors, but it doesn't have to be, oh my God, kind of big thing where you have to spend loads of time on it. If you wanted, in my opinion, I haven't got around to doing this yet, but it's on the list of things to do, is just kind of think about almost like a LinkedIn campaign for me. I mean, I've actually written a number of different articles and things over donkey's years, but just to kind of like have a look at what I've written and just kind of plan out I'm going to have a focused efforts or focused period where I'm going to sort of do every other day. I'm going to repost something or just take a snippet out of one of the articles I've written and just put something on there. So I can relatively easily, maybe over a period of a month, have 20 things that I'm going to post. And it doesn't actually take too much work. It doesn't have to be kind of big and meaningful and deep. It can be snippet and just kind of like interesting.
Yeah, I totally agree. Sorry, who's that? Kevin?
Yeah, I was just going to say that at the moment. So also working with some of the influencers can be quite helpful there. So more recently, a guy called Chris Warburton in my space has done a number of videos, but he chunks them up into your 31-minute segments. So what you get is multiple days in the sun. And at the moment, those, and I did my interview in November, and I'm still getting posted now as something hits. So things like buy now, pay later in the fintech space is very topical. Consumer duty is very topical. There'll be another consultation that's topical. So those 30-second, 1 minute, where somebody who's more professional than me, they're putting together and doing the interview, able to put that out. So it's not me. It's about you and your opinion. but presented in a different way. The other thing I pick up on Gary's point, and something I've learned to my cost, whilst I try and present myself as a subject matter expert, and I post multiple times a day because I'm a director of a trade body as well, joining a debate that is big, like the ESG one, can be quite dangerous, particularly if you're putting something spicy in. So the ESG agenda for me is big in the space I work. There's a lot of transformation work in that space. But beware when you start talking about the number of trees that are planted or something similar. So I have posted a couple of times on the bigger ones, had a lot of comment come back from what I would regard as knowledgeable people. But then you get a lot of people using LinkedIn like social media, and suddenly you can actually end up with all sort of spats coming, which was not the intended consequence, and puts you in reverse gear with regard to what you're trying to do as a subject matter expert, getting embroiled into world peace, which isn't the intention of joining the debate.
Yeah,
very relevant.
Thanks,
Very relevant. I think just coming back to what Gary was saying there as well, that repurposing content is critical. You know, if you've written a report, or if you've written a blog post, or been on a podcast, which I know a few of you have been on my podcast, then there's lots of stuff that we can take from each one of those things and just, as you say, just repurpose them in different ways. And I'm starting to do that now. I some of the things we will. The 49th edition of the podcast will go live on Friday, and all we've done so far is release the podcast. But there's stuff that we can take from each one of those that we can reposition into some mini podcasts, or we can repurpose into a sort of mini post, which won't take that much time or effort to do, because the hard work's been done about getting that podcast live. And it's just having that view of saying, okay, what material have I already got that's already there that I can slice and dice and put out in multiple different ways. Neil, you're on mute, Neil.
Can you hear me?
yes, we can. I
Yeah.
can.
It's the first
I
time.
can't see you, Eva. You're very dark.
Yeah,
That's better.
There you go.
so it's the first time I'm joining this roundtable. So thank you very much, because I found your tips very, very interesting, very insightful. I have to say that I'm starting just to get my head around this journey of positioning yourself in LinkedIn and going into this public space for something else rather than just advertising your CV and applying positions, etc. So it's very interesting what you have said. I have to recognize now from my lenses of as a normal user in LinkedIn, I really find from the tips that you have shared with us, I really find very difficult to select, shortlist that content that is useful for me as to, let's say, use it, reshape it, or whatever to share with my network. So really, I feel like my feed in LinkedIn now is absolutely full with content of others trying to promote themselves as well, trying, testing, learning how to do this. So I really find very difficult, and I wonder if you can share with us, as let's say, transformation managers, like minded people, a little bit of websites, some people that maybe are very filtered, shortlisted by others before, so we can start to read content of quality and start this journey by reading something interesting rather than spending. I feel like I'm spending 1 hour filtering content, reading things that 1 minute that don't catch my intention. I go to the next one, I go to the next one. So then it's spending 1 hour filtering content plus another time then preparing your own content. So it becomes like a kind of a little job on the top of your job. So I wonder if you can share with us a little bit of tips, names, or things to follow related with transformation that maybe help us, the beginners like me, to start to read content of quality, you know?
Okay. I think there's two things actually that come out minimum of 2, maybe 3. One, your feed is full of stuff from people that you follow or you are connected to. And if you, over many years, been doing different things and connected to different people through those years, there's almost an activity to cleanse out who you're following or who you are connected to, so that you take away the people that are not relevant anymore. So you naturally start to clean your feed, if that makes sense. But secondly, those hashtags that I was talking about earlier, so you can search on hashtag transformation leaders, or you can search on transformation or business change, and that will then start to pull into your feed or the relevant people that are talking about things that you're interested in. And then when you see stuff, then you can choose to connect to them, or what LinkedIn are allowing you to do now, rather than connecting to them, to follow them. So if you've got if you've identified people that have got some relevant information, you can follow them and they will naturally start to come into your feed. And there's a new tool that's just starting to get rolled out through LinkedIn, where you can get alerts. I don't think everybody's got access to it at the moment. I only saw it a couple of days ago that it was available to me. So what LinkedIn tend to sort of gradually roll it out across the network. But what that does, it almost, if you were following me, you could say, actually, anytime Tony posts, send me an alert, and it just pings up, Tony sent you an. I think it, on the face of it, could be really good. Equally, it could be really annoying because you just keep getting ping, 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 ping. But I think if you're selective, when that gets rolled out properly, that could be a way that you can start to really hone in on the relevant people. But I think as a starting point, I would tend to look at those hashtags, identify people that are relevant to you and influencers within that space, follow them, and then when you go onto LinkedIn for your half an hour a day or whatever, go and have a look at their profiles. If it's not coming up in your feed, just go and have a look, and then you can see and search on what they've posted. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's interesting. That first cleansing of your network potentially, to start with the select people that really happen.
You're very
you're really quiet.
I think Chris has got his hand up.
Yeah, I was just saying, yeah. Shall we go to Chris now? If you've got any more comments, let's see if we can sort out your microphone. Chris,
we can't hear you very well, Eva. That's the problem.
Sorry.
But,
okay.
oh yeah, back now.
Okay, that's fine, Tony. It helps. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. So my question, Tony, was it's great. I kind of want to expand a bit more on hashtags, but my first question was, how do you engage? What's your approach to engaging with comments? Is your objective, you always reply, you look at the profiles, you connect to get more profiles, because there is a limit of number of connections you can have. So what I mean, you'll probably say it depends, but do you have an approach?
On comments on other people's posts? On
your articles, on your posts, you get comments, right?
Oh yeah, so if people comment upon me, engage with them. Absolutely, because that's the purpose of it, isn't it? You want to start to engage, and going back to that first slide, it's people buy from people they know, like, and trust. The people that are commented upon and give you opportunity to get to know them, but you don't get to know them until you actually start to engage with them. So I tend to go back and not always, but one, thank them for the comment, or acknowledge the comment, have a point of view about their thoughts and comments. If you don't agree with it, engage with them and have a bit of a debate. But tend to, and this is where I personally don't do it as often as I should do, because it is definitely a best practice, is end with another question. So do you know, like if you're in a conversation, you would tend to, if you want to control that conversation, you always end with a question, and then you encourage the other person to engage. You can do that on LinkedIn, and I know when I do that, and when I've done that, the conversation just flows and goes to a deeper level. And at some stage, then I look to take it off the thread of the post, because you get into a deeper level of conversation. You just go to a direct message, and ultimately with the intention of saying, probably makes sense for us to jump on a Zoom or a Teams or whatever, and then you're starting to engage at a much deeper level.
It's probably worth saying that the LinkedIn algorithm is just a bit of a black art type thing. However, the more engagement there is, the more LinkedIn kind of like distributes it out to people and puts it in other people's feeds. And one of the ways it does that is by seeing how popular it is. And one of the ways to do that is see how many comments there are. So if somebody does comment, always comment back, always like it, always support it, always something, but always comment back, because LinkedIn will then go, oh, that post there is actually getting a bit of interest, and then I'll share it out a bit more. If you don't comment back, LinkedIn will go, oh, nobody's really interested, you might do anything with it. Because LinkedIn doesn't just ping everything out there to everybody, that all of your contacts, for example. It kind of like throttles it and just puts it out there a little bit just to see what interest it gets. And if there's no interest, that's it. But if people start to engage with it, they'll share it in other people's feeds and see kind of like how much life it's got.
And that's why polls work very well, because you're asking people to interact with you really quickly by just saying it's A, B, or C. But every time they click A, B, or C, LinkedIn's algorithm sees that as an interaction, and it just expands very quickly. So I've had polls that I did just before Christmas that literally within the space of a day and a half, the number of views had gone 10,000 plus. The number of interactions, polls, and likes were in the hundreds. Where a typical post doesn't get that level of exposure at this moment in time. But there is you reminded me of something there, Gary. There's a I think it's Lem Pod or something like that, and there it's an app that you can go on and you can create little mini groups. But we can do it very easily here. I'll guarantee if there's 9 people on this call now, if all 9 of us just followed each other and and shared each other's post over the next few days, our numbers of views, our number of engagements will grow exponentially, just by having that regularity of people coming upon you. And that's one of the things that we should look to develop actually within TLH to try to help each other to expand our individual exposure.
Yeah.
So it's we've gone beyond the 45 minutes. I'm more than happy to stay around. I've got something at 10:30, but more than happy to stay around for 10 minutes if there's other questions or comments or thoughts.
Tony, the only one I would make on it is if the audience is fairly inconsistent in their usage of LinkedIn, is don't engage in something if you're not going to be around when the debate heats up. So there are a lot of rapid responders, and in some of my spaces, because I do a lot of transformation work in public sector, if you've got engaged with directors and deputy directors of Cabinet Office, HMRC, DWP, Crown Commercial, whoever your target audience is, don't leave them high and dry when they've engaged the discussion, because you've got them at the critical moment where they are commenting. And although theoretically a civil servant shouldn't be providing an opinion, often you get them on that cusp of actually expressing a point of view. And if you're not around to respond to it, and you only do it at the weekends, then that is an opportunity lost and may actually take you in the backward direction.
Yeah, no, I agree. I don't. It's like anything, isn't it? If someone's had the or taken the action to engage with you, the last thing we want to do is just engage into what appears to be an empty room, because your reputation will fall. Absolutely, we can't all be on LinkedIn all of the time, every minute of the day. But again,
you can get the alerts on your mobile
yeah,
and the like.
I was just going to say that it's make use of the alerts where you can. And if you're in meetings, people understand that, you know, people are in meetings, they can't respond immediately, but don't leave it for days on end before you acknowledge them. And where you can, use the alerts, and when you're between meetings, just do a quick comment. And it could just be, I'm back to back today, I'd love to engage further, can I come back to you? But it acknowledges that they've made that comment, and that you've read it and you want to engage deeper, but actually at the moment I'm back to back in meetings. I think, you know, that's it's just being courteous, isn't it, ultimately?
So
The same is true of the influencers as well.
Oh, sorry, there was two people talking then. I couldn't hear either of you.
So I wouldn't mind hearing more about Canva, Tony.
Oh,
You
right,
wanted to run through some of that, which would be really useful. Might not have enough time now, but maybe on another session could be. If it's
yeah,
a good tool, it's worth sharing.
Yeah, it is. It's, you know, have a look. It's canva.com. But yeah, we can. It's probably, we haven't probably got time to get onto it now, but yeah, absolutely. It's just a really simple tool to use to create visual images. A lot of the stuff I post, images come out of Canva, and it's, you know, as I say, predominantly there's a paid for version, but the free version is more than sufficient for majority of your needs.
In terms of tools, has anyone used Miro? Because I've used it recently and it was really good. I would recommend it. It's free from Microsoft, and it's we used it in a workshop, and it was excellent. You can just get people to add people to the group, and they can just all comment and make additions, amendments to things on screen. We had it in a workshop where we were asking what people thought the risks to the business were, and there were 6 people online and a few in the room, and they all could, you know, the content we got from them in the space of 5 minutes was far more than we'd have had with maybe just post-its and things. It was really good, because although someone said you don't get that interaction, what people did, especially the people online, they sort of shut off from the group for a minute and thought themselves, and were typing in, and we could see them all just popping up on screen, and then we had a discussion about them. It was really useful tools. So Miro, it's just like a PowerPoint, but interactive. You get whiteboards and you just type in whatever you want. I've seen people do invoices in them, like we had workshops in them and a presentation in it. So it's a really good tool.
Take a look at that. Thanks, Neil.
Yeah.
And any last point or last question or comment to make? Was it Kevin? Was it you that was about to say something? Or
yeah, sorry, I talked over you, Kevin. There.
No problem. I've already asked a couple of questions. No, I think my only last observation was in relation to where we are targeting influencers, where you see people like Simon Chan and others that are quite prolific. One of the aims should be to be on their repertoire of experts they point to, but again, the speed of response. So even to Theodore's point earlier on, even if you're working on a program where there may be some confidentiality, you still want to be seen to be one of the go-to people in certain areas. So I try and pick my subject matter space. So I'm very strong in the vulnerability area and a couple of other areas that you want to be pointed to, but don't disappoint them. So if they start, you know, Faith Reynolds in the open banking space is another very good influencer, but don't let them down, because what they're wanting is a response when they bring you into that discussion. And Theodore, that can remain very generic. It doesn't have to talk about your client. It can be, you know, your high level of experience in certain type of transformation.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much for that. I have been taking some notes because it's worthwhile putting out there what I've learned. Yes, so thank you for that. Thank you.
I mean, HMRC used to be like that, tightly locked down, but they do bring you in when they're talking about something in where it's your subject matter expertise rather than something to do specifically with HMRC.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think there's lots of ways that you can make something very, very specific, but keep it quite generic in terms of not talking about individual clients or individual organizations. It's, you know, especially with what we do, you know, argument is, you know, if you are experienced in delivering change and transformation, you can deliver change and transformation across most sectors. You know, the approach is a standard type of approach. Yes, there's different languages and different challenges in each sector, but we're all clever enough and experienced enough to be able to pick those sort of things up relatively quickly. So, you know, and actually what I found in many cases is that coming in to a new sector, a new industry, and asking the numpty questions opens up that discussion and gets to the core issue a lot quicker than you would be if you were, you know, 25-year industry expert in that one sector. So I think the more you can talk about your experiences, about issues and challenges that you've overcome, people will take notice and start to engage with you. Super. Well, we're just coming to the end of the hour. Thank you very much for your involvement today, and I look forward to seeing you again in a future show.
Cheers, Tony. Cheers, all. Good
Thanks,
stuff.
Thanks a lot.
Cheers, Tony. Cheers, everyone.
Bye-bye.